Hello, YouTube! I am so excited to be working on this. I recently purchased this massive set of 3D printable files from Massassi for my 3.75 or 1 to 18 scale Star Wars figures. I will also include the link in the description below. In this video, I will show you how I printed and painted set 2B, the grill. This grill is an additional attribute for set 2, the throne area. Due to the small size and intricacy of these pieces, I need to print them on a resin printer. In this video, I will show you the printer and the slicer settings that I used, how I assembled the pieces for the grill, and how I painted it. This is the printer that I am using, the Anycubic Photon Mono 4. I'm also using standard resin in gray from Anycubic. I'm using the Anycubic Wash and Cure 3 station to keep things simple. I fill up the wash bucket with 91% isopropyl alcohol, also known as IPA, that I purchased from Walmart. The slicer software that I use is Anycubic Photon Workshop. This is where I import the STLs that I purchase and slice them into files so that my printer can print them. And here are my slicer settings. I've set my exposure time to 3 seconds, and the exposure time for my bottom 5 layers is 35 seconds. Otherwise, I use all the defaults. Some important things that I've learned are always to angle or rotate, in my slicer software, the pieces so that their main horizontal surfaces are between 30 and 45 degrees. I never print a flat object horizontal because the resin printers don't do a great job of printing large flat areas. In most cases, these are small pieces, so there's no need to hollow them out, punch holes in them for the resin to escape, etc. I just print them as they are imported. I always arrange the pieces so that their bases overlap slightly, which gives me a much better surface attached to the plate and really helps with not having pieces fall off the build plate. For safety, I always wear nitrile gloves when handling uncured resin pieces, and I always print in a well-ventilated room or out in my garage. At this point, I have used my resin printer to print out all of the pieces. I removed the supports and assembled everything according to Massassi's excellent instructions. I use Gorilla Superglue to fasten the pieces. I used a 1mm metal rod from Amazon for the spit. You can buy them in packs of 10, as recommended by Massassi in the instructions. I also glue gunned the fire piece to a dowel so that it will be easier for me to paint and hold it while I paint it without having to touch it. So now that this is done, I'm going to go out to my garage and spray everything with primer. Now it's time to use my airbrush to spray the base coat for the grill. I'm going to use Tamiya X10 gunmetal. I'm going to shake it up. And I'll use a pipette to take out 2 milliliters. And then I need to thin it. So it's 50% paint, 50% thinner. I'm using Tamiya X20A thinner. And I'll also use 2 millimeters. Then I mix them up. And I'm going to take it outside in my garage where I will use my airbrush. This is the air compressor and airbrush from TimberTech that I am using. You can find them on Amazon. And as a tip, I use this Lysol all-purpose cleaner to clean the airbrush after each use. You don't need to use expensive thinner or any other chemicals. This stuff does a great job. So we'll turn on the air compressor. We'll pour the paint into the cup of the airbrush. And then we'll keep the airbrush about 6 inches away and spray a light coat over the whole thing. I painted the meat on the spit Tamiya XF10 flat brown. Just painted it with a brush, not my airbrush. And now I'm going to paint a lighter color to give it some depth. So this one is Tamiya XF72 brown. Stirring it with a toothpick. And I'm going to use a flat number 2 brush. And then I'll unload most of the paint. And then I'm just going to lightly brush it across the tops. This isn't dry brushing. It's kind of like dry brushing, but it's not technically. I just want to get the raised edges. And because the two browns are close in tone, it's going to look pretty good. Now that the brown is dry, the lighter brown, we're going to do one last coat, hopefully, with Desert Yellow XF59. So it's a lighter shade even still. So 3 shades ought to do it. We'll unload the brush. Take most of it off on a paper towel. For the grill itself, we airbrush Gunmetal X10 from Tamiya as our base coat. And now I'm going to use XF28 Dark Copper to do some highlights. So as a metallic paint, you definitely want to stir it well. And again, we'll use our number 2 flat brush. Get some paint. Take most of it off. So again, we're not dry brushing, but we're going to do a similar thing where we're just going to run it over the edges. So it will add some highlights to the edges. Now this will benefit from a cumulative effect. So we'll do multiple thinner coats, let them dry, and then we'll come back and do a little bit more on the edges where it needs it. So I'll keep going and do the rest of it. The grill is still a little bit too shiny for me. So what I'm going to do is apply a black wash or two. And this will act as kind of a filter to dull it down. So this is our traditional black wash that we've been using all along. Number 10 flat brush. And then we just paint it over everything. The only thing to think about is bubbles. We're going to watch out for bubbles. And pooling. So see, I can just go over it again and get rid of the bubbles and the pools. If there's too much of a pool, you can take the wash off your brush and then try and pick it out on the edges. So we'll just go over all the surfaces, and this will just nicely create a filter over the top and dull everything down. And the good trick is I've got it on paper towel and paper so I can twist it around without having to touch it. For the fire, I used a hot glue gun and glued it to the end of a dowel, an old dowel, and then I sprayed it with some primer, Rust-Oleum white primer, and then I painted it yellow, Tamiya X8 lemon yellow, and I painted the whole thing, and then over the top of that I painted Tamiya X7 red, just in places where I wanted it to be randomly, so then it was just a mix of yellow and red. And now what I'm going to do is take some thinner, I want clean thinner, and this is a number 1 round Nick Pro brush. And then I'm just going to go over it and use the thinner to kind of break down where it's really red, and it will also carry the red over a little bit onto the yellow. So this is how I mix the two together so it's not as stark. It's not yellow and red. Now we're getting some orange in the middles, and everything is blending a little bit nicer. And everybody's still nice and bright, but it's looking a little bit more like fire. Now I'm going to add a little bit of flat black Tamiya XF1. And all we're going to do is just a couple of dots. Okay, and then we'll let that dry. To finish up the fire, we'll just do a final black wash. So this is the same black wash we've been using all along for the other parts. And we'll just paint it over to give it a more smoky effect. I also applied 2 coats of black wash to the grill. Here is what the completed grill looks like when it's installed and set to. And that concludes this video. In the next video, we will start working on installing LED lights. Thank you for watching my build series video for the 3D printable Jabba's Palace complete with hangar from Massassi. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. If you have any other ideas or tips for how to complete any of the steps that I've shown, please leave us a comment below.